You have to believe in yourself more than anyone else. And you might be in positions where no one else might believe in you, but as long as you hold that strong and continue trying new ways of how you can bring your passion to life. Action does not come from, motivation. Motivation comes from action. What always helps me is just like doing something and getting out and just setting it and just not letting myself to be in a hole. You just have to start. Because it might suck at first, but after 4 or 5, 6 times, your body reacts to it and you start to get it motivated, and then you really get into it, and then it becomes addictive, and then it's like a snowball, and then, and it just keeps going.
Thank you for tuning in to the Mile 40 podcast. I am Bishoy Tadros, the author of Break Barriers and Audacious, both of which are sold on Amazon. And I invite you to join me as I engage with guests to discuss those bounce back moments that we encounter on our personal journey. Mile 40 is a forum to learn about how athletes, professionals, and leaders of all backgrounds stare down moments in life where the only option is to rise up. The Mile 40 podcast strives to remind listeners that the comeback is always greater than the setback. Welcome back to another episode of the Mile 40 podcast. Thank you all for continuing to tune in. I cannot thank you all enough for riding with me. We are almost at 4 years now, which is really, really crazy to say. If you haven't already, please be sure to hit subscribe if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Check out the show notes, pick up a copy of Break Barriers or Audacious. Today's guest is a guest I am very excited to bring on. I have Meghan Hayden. She's trained New Yorkers now since 2015, this year marking a decade on the scene. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Exercise Physiology from the University of Miami. She's passionate about teaching functional movement patterns that enhance day-to-day performance, ultimately ensuring long-term health and longevity. Takeoff with Meg, her private training platform, empowers members to do the things they love for as long as possible. She expertly offsets grind culture by cultivating a regenerative and habit-centered training approach. Meg, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. I'm very excited. I've had you on my radar for a long time. I even reached out to you a very long time ago. You responded to me, and then I completely lost sight of the message. So that is on me. But
Normally it's the other way around. So I'm very happy that I'm in the clear on that one.
Yeah, no, it wasn't you. When I reached out to your team, they were like, how do you know Meg? And I sent them a screenshot from I don't know what year. I was like, I swear she said she would come on the show. No, but I really, really appreciate it. I know you. I've been following you. I've trained with you, and so I'm really excited to give my audience a sneak peek into who you are, first and foremost, and secondly, how you got to where you are. Because over the last several years, in particular, I feel like your platform has skyrocketed, and you've done it in a way that truly distinguishes you and your craft. And so, I think to kick things off, just give us a little bit of background. Where are you from originally?
I grew up in Greenwich, Connecticut, so very close to the city. And then I was very fortunate when I was 4, my dad had an opportunity to finish out his pilot's career in Hawaii. So from 4 till 8 years old, I was in Oahu, and then we moved back. So yeah, go ahead.
Awesome. No, tell me a little bit more about your family. Any siblings?
I have an older brother. He's 2 years older. And then my dad has a previous marriage of 3 kids. And my 3 other, or I guess half siblings, could be pretty much my second parents. They're huge mentors to me. And we all stay pretty close.
Got it. And overall, what was the dynamic like growing up? What was the household like? What were some of the values that were instilled in you as a child?
My mom was a flight attendant, so they were that cute couple in the sky that met. And obviously, as a pilot and a flight attendant, there's no room to really have kids. So when my brother was born, my mom retired. And then when I was 8 years old, my dad had an age limit on flying, which makes sense. So by the time I was 8, I had 2 stay-at-home parents, and that had a lot of benefits because if I forgot my homework at school, they could bring it to me. They were at every single sporting event. They were the most supportive parents during my childhood, and I really had so much time with them throughout my childhood, and that really shaped who I became.
And then you eventually went off to Miami. So talk to me a little bit about what it was like to leave a home like that.
Yeah, I actually went to University of Richmond first.
Okay.
So I played soccer and got recruited at University of Richmond. I played there for one season, 1.5 seasons, and then I went to my advisor and I was like, I really want to learn exercise physiology. And a lot of the girls on the team could kind of curate their major through piecing together different classes. And my advisor was like, honey, you're in a liberal arts small business school. Like you need, we don't have, kinesiology and anatomy for sports science and all this. So I loved University of Richmond and I loved my team, but ultimately we're there for education. So I transferred. I caught up on a few science credits at Norwalk Community College in Connecticut, and then I transferred down to Florida Gulf Coast University. My coach from Richmond called my future coach from Florida Gulf Coast, and a week later, I was doing preseason with the team where I did not think I was going to be playing soccer again. So that was really fun jumping into there, and I played there for a year, but halfway through that year in December, I was seeing everyone walk with their caps and gowns for winter graduation. And I honestly just wasn't that proud. I wouldn't be that proud wearing that cap and gown just because I felt like at Richmond, I was a lot more challenged academically. I just didn't feel like it was the best fit for a school. So I thought I had to leave. And I only applied to University of Miami and I got in. So I was very, very happy to transfer there and finish out my last 2 years of school there.
That's awesome. So it sounds to me like you had a healthy balance of education and athletics, but your mind seemed to be pretty heavily tilted toward the importance of education, especially at that juncture. Talk to me about just in general growing up, where athletics came in. Was it, your parents throwing you in all kinds of different sports and ultimately you found soccer? Was it you exploring? Like where did the derivation of that come from?
I was just the kid that liked doing everything, especially in Hawaii. There's such a culture around just getting outside and doing things. Like after school every day, we'd go surfing, we'd grab our nets and go tadpoling and fishing, and we were just out in nature. And I think that really set a great foundation for when I moved back to Connecticut. And even though I'm not in a very big natural zone, it really helped me just continue living that lifestyle. My parents put me into everything, and I kept doing everything to where when I got to middle school and I was 11, my parents were like, you need to decide because we only have a certain amount of people and cars to take you places, and we only have a certain amount of hours in a day. So I played soccer, tennis, and I did track as a winter sport. I ended up being the only freshman that made all 3 sports varsity team. And I ended up going to my public high school because I felt like it was the most competitive in terms of athletics. And definitely growing up, like that was my focus. Like I left school, I would play a sport, I'd go to a second practice, fit homework in between, and then that was it. And that was essentially through high school. My junior spring of high school, I tore my shoulder playing tennis, and I was really going to play either one in college. I loved both equally, and injuring my shoulder forced me to make a decision. I could either get surgery and not really have time to get recruited for either sport, or it was pick the non-shoulder sport and go for it. And so I dropped my racket, I picked up my cleats, and I went 100% into that and ended up getting recruited. I went to a bunch of college camps, and that's where Richmond found me. But it also really jump-started this whole career in my place in this industry, because that summer before my senior year of high school, I went to a sports facility in town, a sports medicine facility, and I learned how to rehab like 200 shoulders. I just was the exercise practitioner after the therapists did their work. And I just wanted to talk to every single person, how they got their injury, what they'd been doing, what their protocol was. And I really worked with that doctor onto building all these different people up. And in the process, I ended up rehabbing my own shoulder because it was partially torn. It wasn't off the bone. So I ended up rehabbing my own shoulder, and then that kind of dove into, I can study this. I can open up textbooks and get a degree in this, and this can be like, it was the only thing I was really motivated to learn about, and so that led into me really being confident in wanting to study exercise physiology.
That's awesome. It's awesome to hear a story like that where like the root of the interest started and you stuck with it and then you saw it through, especially during those defining years. And, that leads me to ask you, tell me a little bit about what your social life was like back then, I'm particularly interested in, and this is kind of two questions in one, how critical that period in Hawaii, granted you were young, influenced your overall perspective on life, socializing, because there is a huge difference between living in Hawaii, excuse me, and living in the Northeast.
Massive.
And I do think having that healthy dose of perspective really could shape you socially.
I mean, I will definitely want to prioritize raising my kids through that developmental age in a natural, heavy environment because of that. Living in Hawaii was so beautiful because everyone around you is your aunt and uncle. Everyone around you is family, and everyone wants you to succeed, wants the best for you. And it's just such a beautiful family driven culture. It's not driven around money. It's driven around how can we enjoy our time with the people that we love and find more ways to do it. And how do we help each other? How do we, every single cookout is a parking lot full of people bringing in their favorite dishes. And it's so community driven. Whereas, cold New England and Connecticut, it was, very finance driven. All of my friends had parents that were commuting into the city, didn't see their parents often, didn't maybe have the best relationship with their parents. And it was all very much, I wouldn't want to say like business driven,
Yeah.
but it felt like it compared to Hawaii. And, like the plumber would answer my door and I'd reach out and want to give him a hug. And my mom was like, no, no, no.
Not
In
here.
Connecticut, we don't do that
We don't
here.
do that here.
Don't touch people. Don't hug people off the bat. So that was a great balance because I feel like even though I only had 4 years in Hawaii and yes, they were huge developmental years, but even to this age, like I very much love people. I love like giving everyone a chance or giving everyone a moment of my time to, you can learn from everyone. And I think there's a huge opportunity of connection and lessons you can learn from other people. So I take that Hawaiian mentality of, one, being more social and meeting people where they're at and being nice to people. And then also really learning how to take a break from the grind. I mean, here it's such huge hustle culture. In Hawaii, it's like, when are we going to the beach? When are we hanging out? And rest is not like it's not a negative term in Hawaii. And I feel like in New York, sometimes it can be. So I love that I got that blessing of growing up there because I'm able to kind of take a beat, give myself self-care, give back to myself and not feel too stressed about resting.
Well, to that point also, when you think about growing up, in Connecticut, Long Island, New York, the New York metropolitan area, especially during those developmental years, to your point, it's competitive. I mean, let's call it what it is, and from various aspects, and in particular, going through high school, whether it's competing for academic sports, even just being popular, and culture wise, coming from a place like Hawaii, obviously, like it's a little bit more relaxed. It's a little bit more chill. You want to, like in your own words, you want everybody else to succeed. And so I ask, like, having that mentality as you kind of now are in the Northeast culture, did it play in your favor or did it play against you at times? Like, did you ever feel like you were different?
Definitely both. A lot of experience of both. Sometimes I feel like I could have left situations earlier, or I could have protected myself a lot earlier or better in certain situations. However, I would say that I feel better like giving it the chance, giving it the benefit of the doubt. Like, if you get screwed, you're not the one that really gets negatively affected too much, like because you know that you you presented yourself as your best, version, and you did what you could to bring it to life or make something happen. And yeah, so I feel like my conscience is a little more clear. Have I gotten hurt a lot of times, maybe more than other people that protect themselves more? Sure. But I think that's part of the game. And I think that also giving those chances opened up a lot of doors that those protected people wouldn't have even opened. So I would say both.
I love that. Who were your biggest influences? What was it? Your parents?
Parents are my biggest influences and supporters. I would say actually, my college boyfriend I dated in Richmond. When I transferred to Miami, that's where he's from, and I ended up spending a lot of quality time with his parents without him there. So I kind of became like another sibling in the family, and they became massive mentors to me because my parents very much adopt that Hawaiian mentality. Living in the sky and being a pilot, it's not so much a grind culture because you just show up to work and you fly the plane, or you help all the people in the plane, and then that's it. There's not really like scalability, I would say, besides just being there for a lot of years. And my college boyfriend's parents were incredible entrepreneurs, incredible business people, and having that influence where I pretty much lived in their home and learned so much from them. And they're incredible people, like emotionally, and just they're there for people. They're not like closed off and cold because of how good they are with business. But I was able to learn so much about building businesses and working with people, having staff, top to bottom in terms of running a business. And they're massive influences in my life, especially because I really spent a lot of time with them during my college years. So
During that era, let's talk about high school, college. Throughout all that transition, what were some of your, I guess, what were some of your insecurities at that time? What things were you not sure about?
one thing is I always have been surrounded by people that have it all. Especially growing up in Greenwich, like everyone is extremely well off and wealthy, and everyone's parents are doing amazing big things in business. My parents are incredible blue collar workers, and we lived in Greenwich, but we were nowhere near like the wealthy ones on the block, especially going to University of Richmond, University of Miami. Everyone is surrounded with everything. And I wouldn't say that made me self-conscious or made me like feel down about myself. It almost did the opposite. It made me a little bit feel hungry a little bit and like want to get a piece of it. But it definitely made me, I guess, like a little bit, it definitely humbled me. but it also made me like operate at a kind of like a soft level, to where I'd never wanted to be like the bigger one in the room and everyone wanted to show off what I had or what I was doing or anything. It kind of just made me like fly under the radar, which again could be a strength, but it allowed me to continue working and really have that drive.
I love that. And one of the things that I'm gathering from you, and I think this is a little bit of a cheat code, right? Like you were not out there chasing wealth, but you were very self-aware and you were aware of your surroundings and you were putting yourself in the right rooms, but you understood that, by chasing it, you were less likely to attract it. And and I think that at that age, being really conscious of that is a cheat code of sorts. And I think it goes back to, you know, maybe your earlier experience kind of being in a culture like Hawaii, and obviously the way that your parents raised you and their own experiences. But I think that embracing that and owning that mindset uh, is a something for the listeners to think about. A lot of times, like we look around at the people around us, and then we kind of, especially, here, you want to chase it because you feel like everybody else has it. But if you take a second and just like let it come to you by doing all the right things, it works out a lot better.
Also, chasing it, but from a value perspective. Like, I didn't want money to have money. I really wanted to create something of value, to where it could be expensive because of what I'm bringing to the table. I really wanted to earn it and I really wanted to work hard for it. And I say, like, I have that from my parents. Like, I'm not very, I wouldn't say like innovative. I'm not like all over AI. I'm not trying to learn all the new tricks of the trade and whatever. But I just know that if I work really hard and I create a lot of value, then that will become successful eventually.
Absolutely. Sorry. So talk to me now about your time in Miami. What was that like?
Yeah, I loved it. Brian Busoli was one of my professors, and he has one of the biggest nationally accredited certifications. So having him as a professor and mentor was incredible. It's funny because Miami is very health centered, but not really training centered. People love being outside and being, in the beautiful landscape, but they don't necessarily like live in the gym, especially different from New York culture. But it was amazing because I worked with a lot of athletes. I worked with Fast Twitch, which was an athletic development facility, and they now have multiple across Southern Florida. But because of how intensely I was studying exercise physiology, it was really cool to also work with the 1% of athletes who are really trying to get to that next little level, and to operate at that level of, accuracy and intention. When I came to New York, when you study in school, everything is it's a study, right? So everything has to be controlled. Your timing of day, what you eat, how you train, everything to the numbers. And then you come to New York and you're like, people are just trying to find some balance. People are just trying to become healthier. And it's such a bigger engine of not, what does it say on the spreadsheet? It's like, how do we navigate and help increase your quality of life with the lifestyle that you have? And how do we improve this lifestyle to make you feel better and perform better on a day-to-day basis? And, you write a 1 month specific plan and then someone comes in, they had 2 hours of sleep, that plan goes out the window. So it's really what most of my job is. It's not about programming to make someone, fit and healthy on a general perspective. It's how do we take these 20 different variables of someone's lifestyle, a lot of them that you can't change, and how do we improve your quality of life? And that can look different in so many different ways, So much of what I teach is also just stress management and reminding my clients to, have a better nighttime routine and how to step into a meeting and do 5 minutes of breath work before presenting to a panel, stuff like that. Fitness our market has definitely changed towards way more holistic, and that's great because the body needs to be seen as that. So it's really not just about fitness. It's about looking at every different part of their life.
Were you surprised by that as you were kind of going through, the educational aspect of this? Like as you were going through school and as you were learning, and then as you started practicing, did it surprise you that it went beyond the science and it really was holistic? Or did you anticipate that was the case from the beginning? Like, were you ever kind of like, wow, this is bigger than I thought it was?
It's more so just the type of clientele. If you have a college athlete or a professional athlete step in the gym, every single thing in their day is coordinated around that. And their training schedule and performing and getting out in the field or, whatever sport they play. The New York is obviously very different, but I think it's more so like finding grace and really meeting people where they're at. And I would say most of my skill set is becoming like a chameleon and like being able to be in a room with so many different types of people and be there for them and support them and see them in a way that they need to be seen to get better, because the same formula does not work for everyone, and everyone has to be taken as a completely different case. So I say like that's where my strengths come in, and as a personal trainer you need to be. As a group fitness coach, you are the entertainer, the DJ, the coordinator of the room, and that comes with a lot of skill set as well. But in terms of personal training, it's very much so of you need, for most of your clientele, you might be the only positive beacon in their entire day. They could be getting crushed at work. They could be getting ran through with their kids. Their wife could be, or their husband could be, down their throats. But like your only and main purpose in their life is to benefit them. And like, if you can really hone in on that as a coach, then you will succeed more than anyone, because that's all people care about,
Hey, Mile 40 fam. I get asked a lot about my training programs and how I set myself up for success to cross finish lines all over the world. Well, I'm going to let you in on a secret. Recovery is half the battle. And in order to get that recovery, I rely on clean sources of protein. That's why my go-to protein shake is Owen. Only what you need. I have one after every single workout. 100% vegan and plant-based, Owen's plant-based shakes use a multi-source protein blend of pea, pumpkin seed, and flax seeds to include all essential amino acids to promote optimal daily health. Uncompromised taste. Owen brings together the essential elements of advanced nutrition, amazingly clean ingredients, functional superiority, and uncompromised taste. Now go ahead, go to www.liveowen.com. That's spelled LIVEOWYN.com. Use code MILE40 for 20% off your next purchase. Only what you need. I imagine that the way your trajectory shaped out wasn't what you thought it was going to be. I imagine that, there were a lot of, maybe for the better, a lot of turns that were made, unexpectedly. What year did you finish in Miami?
2016.
Okay. And then once you finished, what were you doing off the bat?
So I knew I was going to move to New York, but I didn't know where to start because there is a gym on every block. So I figured I'd start big box. And even though I just had this nice big degree, I started out as tier 1, just like everyone else at Equinox. And
that story's been heard on this show a few times, but I'm sure.
And I thought it was an amazing experience to start because my skill set that I came into Equinox was all of the science and all of the how to be a trainer. It was nothing of how to run a business. So what's amazing about Equinox is the managers really teach you how to run a good business, whether it be taking on 20 to 30 clients and then all of their programs, what they're doing. It's definitely a machine to where they want you to work as many hours as possible. And because of what they pay you, you are also inclined to work as many hours as possible. But it allows you to really learn how to manage it all because you have to. So stepping into those shoes and doing that was great. And then I was there for a year and a half. I finished as a tier 3 plus, and I was a top performer for a little bit. And I kind of asked what the next trajectory was, and they said you can either work more hours or get paid less as a manager. And I was like, well, both those options don't really sound very enticing to me. So it ended up being the exact time that Performance House was coming into fruition, and they hired half incredible celebrity trainers who had been in the space for now as long as I've been in the space. And they brought on half fitness influencers who were incredible with content and exposing themselves to millions of people. And I was very lucky. I was one of the youngest ones that got brought into the group. I had a pretty successful book at Equinox, but I really didn't take anyone over. I took maybe a couple people came to me, but it was a pretty clean transfer. And then I was out on my own. And I had a great mentorship from a lot of different people in that gym. But that was my first experience of, okay, it's me. I'm running my business on my own. And how do I act as a business and not just a trainer in a gym?
Did you feel prepared, given some of the mentorship you had while you were in Miami?
Very different business.
But just mindset.
Yeah, definitely mindset. I mean, I started working when I was a junior in college. Once I felt like I had enough education under my belt, I started working for a private gym in Miami. So I kind of was on that hustle culture. I also was a bartender over the summers in between college to try to pay for college. And after 2008 and the financial crisis, both my parents were retired. A lot of their money was in the market. And I kind of just saw what an impact that could have on people. And I immediately was like, both my parents are retired. Why am I taking it from their pockets? So I cut myself off at 18. And again, like coming from living in Greenwich, where every
Everyone's mom
car
and
is a
dad.
European
Yeah.
car that drives by, and being surrounded by people who, who again have it all. Like I couldn't afford coffee in the morning, and I was just like, I'm going to do this. And there was again like no other option, but it was time to strap up my boots and try to, afford things and have a life. So it kind of started earlier, I would say, but self-induced. And I've always like wanted to provide my parents, provide for myself, and not have to ask anyone for anything. So the grind kind of just came out of necessity.
You've got a wonderful sense of self-belief, and it's awesome. I mean, there's absolutely
Thank
nothing
you.
wrong with that, obviously. But my question around that is, where do you think that came from? That came from the fact that, your parents really empowered you to believe you could accomplish anything that you put your mind to?
100%. I would say like my parents are the most supportive people in the world. They might not have the most business advice or mentorship, but in terms of believing in me and supporting me in everything and anything that I want to do, I mean, they're A1. So I definitely had a beautiful base, but I would also attribute my sports and athletic, upbringing, because every win gets you more confident for the next win. And I was very lucky that I had coaches for all the different sports that I played. My team coaches, and I never stepped on a field and didn't try my absolute best. Or same with the court. Like I knew that if I was going to spend 3 hours a day on athletic development and getting me better in these sports, like all of those hours better be spent getting better. I wasn't playing sports just because I loved it, even though I did. I was playing sports to be the best. And through so much practice, I mean, 10,000 hours, you become a pro, right? I was achieving that before even high school. Like I was just putting those reps in all the time. And because I always wanted to be better, I became pretty good. And all of that success just fuels more belief and fuels more, grind and wanting to get better. So I think it's a mix of, I had incredible coaches growing up that and now I know, once you see someone working very hard, you want to continue pushing them and supporting them and getting them to get to that next level. And I just had a great relationships where I just kept feeding off of that and kept progressing because I kept trying. And I guess like failure never really brought me down, because I was always just trying to chase that next thing. So you kind of just have to be really good at brushing things off your shoulder and just continuing to go. I also set myself up for failure because I modeled. My mom's really good friend was a casting agent. And when I was in high school, he finally convinced me to go to a casting agency, and I would do casting calls in the city, and I would literally leave school sometimes and come into the city and do a casting call and then go right back. And that's like an hour and a half, hour and a half each way into the city. And I would step in the door of some of these castings. People would look me up and down and go, "No, you can go." And just, you didn't have anything to say back. It was just, okay.
You should
Like,
you should send those same people the pictures that are out there now. You should send the billboards that are out there. And if you want someone from this show, somebody listening to this show should be sending them the
appreciate you.
pictures of those billboards now. Yeah, no, okay. So but keep going. I didn't mean to cut you
Yeah,
off.
but you just have to, I mean, you have to have thick skin. And just like in anything, the more personal you take things and the more sensitive you are, like there is a benefit of being sensitive to feedback and whatever. But you gotta just like, you can't take it personally. You have to realize that, if that's not your person, that's not your person. If that's not your position or your job, then you're probably getting blessed in some other way by not taking that job. There was a trainer in the city who was building a big business here, and he had a huge following, and he was recruiting me, and I was all about it. I was like, this is great. I definitely want to be on your team. He saw me as a little bit more of a partner than just someone who worked underneath him. And I was really passionate about it. And I was like, great, like I'd love to get a contract and like put 2 feet into this and let's go. And it took 6 months. I trained with him once to twice a week that I took time to, and I trained with him for 6 months. And then I actually got one of my clients to invest in the company. And then he waited until my client signed the dotted line and then gave me my contract. And both my client and I looked at the contract and he was like, you can't sign this. Like, this is an awful contract. And it really hurt because I just trained for 6 months out of my own time and pocket and whatever, and really wanted it to happen. And then that was one of those things where I was like, I wish I saw this sooner and I wish I protected myself sooner. I should have gone to contract before even starting to train for it. And but it was a great learning experience. And you realize that people are not necessarily always out to get the best out of you, but for themselves. And you just got to let it ride off the shoulder.
No, of course. And you did a lot of answering what my next question was going to be.
Okay.
was going to be around, handling failure and how you were wired to handle failure. And, a lot of what you said makes sense. And I agree with 100% of what you said. But I wonder how you navigate conversations with clients who perhaps did not stack up as many wins as you were able to, and who were not blessed with the kind of support system that you had. And so you're right, like earlier on in this episode, you said the most important thing that I've talked about over and over again. It's the ability to meet people where they are. And I imagine that you've had to navigate thousands of different, scenarios of different people at different levels of their journey. And to your point, I mean, I could agree to it too. Anytime I go see my trainer, it's because I need to close off everything else going on in my life. I love my wife, I love my kids, but it is nice to be able to kind of, shut that down for 30, 45 minutes and to be able to go into that safe space. And talk to me a little about what you've learned over the years in helping people navigate the types of adversity that perhaps you haven't, personally gone through yourself.
Oof. One, I would say be that support system for them and believe in them. I think everyone, I might talk a big game right now. It doesn't mean that I've never felt down in the dumps and, been in a tough spot. But I think, figuring out what's really like true to you and what speaks most to you, and finding that like light. I think what also saved me was all the risks that I took. I always train personal clients as like my safety net, and that will always be my bread and butter. And then everything on top of that, I'm like, yeah, let's try this project. Let's do this thing. And that's where like, I know that I can fail because I have my base underneath me that I've built. And I would also just say like, you have to believe in yourself more than anyone else. And you might be in positions where no one else might believe in you, but as long as you hold that strong and continue trying new ways of how you can bring your passion to life, or, of how you can be a light, then even if it's just for yourself, like you have to do that and you have to keep pushing. Like action does not come from, motivation. Motivation comes from action. And so I think what always helps me is just like doing something and getting out and just setting it and just not letting myself to be in a hole. Like even as a trainer, everyone's like, oh my God, you're in such good shape. Like you must live and breathe in the gym all day long. I've taken plenty of times where, when I quit soccer and finished college, I took a whole year off. Didn't work out. Maybe did yoga a bunch of times, but like I then like got back into strength training when I started training back in New York, and I kind of had to start from fresh. And there's been plenty of times, and your life is very long. So, so going into like cycles of training is big. And sometimes I take a month off and then I feel like I'm in a rut and I'm like, oh, I'm stuck. Like, I don't want to train. I don't want to go to the gym. I'm not motivated, blah, blah, blah. But like, you just have to start. Because it might suck at first, but after 4 or 5, 6 times, your body reacts to it and you start to get it motivated, and then you really get into it, and then it becomes addictive, and then it's like a snowball, and then, and it just keeps going. And so I would just say just start is my best way to get out of the rut. Finding people that do support you is huge. And obviously you got to be number one.
I love that. You got to give yourself a chance to just build some momentum, and I think that's where the action
Absolutely.
comes from, right? Like, and I think that's such a tangible piece of advice for the audience. So take me back now, Performance House, and I'm assuming that was a little bit before COVID.
It was before COVID, and then we closed it down because of COVID. Actually, we had 30 trainers in that location and
I
over,
remember that launch. Like I remember just
yeah,
like
and it was like
social
the
was
best
blowing
gym
up.
in New York City at the
Yeah,
time. It was
yeah.
the pinnacle, and it was just so amazing. But there was 30 of us, and more than 20 of the trainers in COVID moved to a different city. So it wasn't even like we could have tried to bring it back together with the same people. The physical therapy group that was in the space with us kind of took over the space, and they're there now. But yeah, in COVID, once that hit, I mean, I moved back home. All of my clients needed to take a week or two to recalibrate. I totally understood, um, but yeah, it totally ripped the rug from underneath me. I mean, I was doing well. I had a very successful business and was rocking, and then it was all of a sudden like you're starting from zero. I was hosting $5 Zooms to start at 8 a.m. just so I can get out of bed. And maybe because I'm a personal trainer. So like I don't have this massive audience that if I took my thing online, I would have hundreds of people sign in. I had maybe 2 to 10 people that would come into my Zoom. And unfortunately, some of them were my clients that paid. I was like, no, you need to do a personal session with me. But but yeah, it was more just an excuse because I had to get out of bed. I had to do something, and I was completely on my own, and that's where Takeoff really was born, because it became, okay, you're a personal trainer, like what do you do, what's your mission, what's your methodology? And then it became like I had to build a brand. I had to build an identity that was bigger than me, and I also had a lot of free time, so
Was
so so good.
was that uncomfortable?
Of course.
Yeah. And which part
Very.
specifically?
um of
Or, I guess maybe in a perfect world, was it a blessing in disguise that, you ended up kind of at this juncture where, the situation was out of your hands and then you had to kind of essentially build this platform? Or would it have been better if things remained as they were?
It definitely gave me opportunity to try something totally new and different. What's incredible about the world we live in now is that you are not defined to the sole job that you do within your industry. There's so many ways to move laterally and all around. So yeah, as a one-on-one coach, that I built an online program or offering. But even within the online fitness space, there's a million different things you can do. You can do follow along workouts. You can do at home programs. You can do like monthly calls and mentorship. You can do so many things. So it was really a blessing to where I had to take a backseat approach or a bird's eye view to me and what I was doing in the industry. And it was like, what do you want to leave in this industry? What legacy do you want to have? And how do you want people to remember you and think about you when they think of you as a person in the industry? And so yeah, it was awful. I definitely could have done without it, but it also forced me to really identify what I wanted to accomplish, and who I was as a coach. Because again, as a personal trainer, you have to be malleable. You got to know mobility front and back. You have to know stretching, strength work, functional work, explosive work. Then you can get into the types of equipment. Like there's kettlebell certifications. There's all these different movement techniques, and you kind of have to be able to do it all. But when that happened, it kind of was like, well, what do I really want to focus on and help people with? Still say now that vision is getting a little bit better, because I would answer that right now I'm building a platform that helps a lot of different types of people rather than a niche, which I think is better in terms of building a business. But it really allowed me to think and focus on what I want to do.
I love that. The branding element of it, was that something that came natural to you?
Yes. And I mean, I call it Takeoff with Meg. And the reason why it's a plane is because of my dad and my mom. Like, they met in the sky. Their whole career was in the sky and they had a life together in the sky. So, Takeoff was kind of like my play on my family, but also like taking off, elevating, having your own journey. Like, there's so many fun ways that I was able to use it in a fitness setting, but ultimately the name just came behind, or it was inspired by my parents.
I love that. I'd love to speak to your parents because it's incredibly unique, and it's not often that you have stories like that. And like, I want to ask you, thinking about your parents, what have they instilled in you as it pertains to approaching relationships? Because a love like that is just so cute. So like, how did, and growing up in that kind of household and seeing that kind of being cultivated, what did that teach you?
My dad is like the star in the room, no matter what room he walks into, but he doesn't command it. Like, people just love asking him everything because he's literally like the most interesting man in the world. He's lived 10 lives and is one. And I mean, my dad's 93, so he's definitely has a lot of years under his belt. But but he is just someone that, I mean, both my parents accept everyone and love everyone, but he is just someone that just like is great at just storytelling and just like getting everyone involved. Whereas my mom is like the hardest worker in the room, but you'd never see her because she does everything behind the scenes. Like, my mom will run luncheons and for hundreds of people, and it's just her just running around and working in a small kitchen. Um, so, but also my mom is like, it's funny because we belong to this really elite club in Greenwich, and my dad's been a member for 50 plus years. So it's whatever. But my mom's an immigrant. She came from Holland, but she also grew up in Indonesia. And her mom is very much like, she would be so scrappy, and it was always like, save everything, keep everything, and like everything needs to be with, at the home. And my mom will talk to the help more than she talks to the host. She is the one that looks out for everyone that isn't necessarily looked out for. And I just learned so much from my mom about, just caring about people and taking care of everyone, no matter what status they are, or who they are. My parents had a boat when I was growing up, and they took all of the staff of that club out for a boat day. And like, not one member has ever thought about doing that in the history of our club. But like, my parents were like, you do so much for us. Like, let's take you out. And just like those small gestures just kind of are like a snippet of who they are. Um,
That's such
but
a
I'm just
wonderful, that's such a wonderful
yeah,
thing to
I'm
envision.
so blessed. I was raised by the two nicest and most genuine parents in the world. But yeah, that really helps me when it comes to relationships. And my best friend is like a little black cat, and she makes fun of me because like a traffic cop stopped me on the street the other day, and like, she would be someone that's like, leave me, like, whatever, just let me continue on my day. And I was like, hi. And she was like, oh my God, I love your jacket. And I was like, oh, I was like, here's the brand, like, take a photo. I got on this website. And like, we had this cute little like 5 minute exchange. But I think that's honestly the beauty of life is like, especially as we dive into this AI world, like, connection and being with people is what makes us human. And I am very blessed that I work in a job where every day I have an hour that I get to spend with someone. And it's not really like small talk. Like, you really learn about these people, their lives and what they're going through and their relationships and everything. But I think that I just found the best job for myself because I just love that human connection and finding like the beautiful moments and these unexpected spaces. And yeah, I mean, my friend will tell you I'm like the person that talks to like the homeless guy for a little too long in the street, but I can also keep up with the executives and talk to them and treat them the same.
I
So
love
that's a
that.
skill that I love. I love that I've developed from my parents, and definitely comes from them.
It's such a beautiful injection of balance that, you were kind of afforded, and that's so awesome. And I just, I really want the transfer of energy from you to our audience to me. Like, it's so awesome to kind of hear you talk about that, and how um you've incorporated the attributes from both of them. We're running tight on time, but I want to make sure that we also cover the last 5 years now. So talk to me a little bit about the highs and lows of the last 5 years, because I know that, in following you more specifically, the last couple of years in particular, it seems like from the outside, your brand has really shot up. You've really, really established yourself, and on multiple platforms. And again, going back to what you were talking earlier about your modeling career, I mean, you seem to be crushing it out there now. So talk to me a little bit about that.
It's funny because when something starts to become like public and becomes big and whatever, it's not about those years. It's about everything that you built up before then. I would say my biggest advice to trainers who are just starting their businesses or people trying to find their way in a huge, messy industry is like, what I thought was great about the pandemic was becoming really strong on my identity and what I wanted to achieve, but staying on my course and what I believed as what I wanted to do and be in the industry is what has allowed me to flourish in the last few years. Because, I mean, and this I'm sure goes in any industry, but like everything is thrown your way and everyone wants their product sold and their company shown and everything. And you could say yes to everything, but it will really dilute your messaging. And I think what's a strong point that I've stayed or that I've had is like I have turned down so many opportunities with lots of money or big names and whatever because I didn't find that they were the right fit for me. So many different activewear brands that wanted to partner with me and do whatever, but like none of them ever really made sense. And it was painful kind of saying no or letting go of some of these things, but it really led me to be able to have the availability and, to take on these things. Like, yeah, like the fact that I'm with Athleta now, like I love their company, their team is amazing. But like if I said yes to a bunch of the other smaller activewear brands or things that I didn't really identify with, then Athleta would have never found me or or seen me, or they would have been like, oh, she's like kind of messing with these things. Like that's not really our brand. So I just feel like patience is key. And your identity is so key. And I just find that, me staying with what I knew was my image or who I wanted to be perceived as, I was really strong on social media being that person. Like I always want to be seen on social media and in life as someone who likes to have fun. And yes, I'm a trainer, but I really care about giving people the tools and confidence and tips and educational things so that they can really take things on their own and create value for people. So yeah, I would just say like your brands and the right opportunities will find you, but you have to make sure that you are putting yourself out there the way that you need to attract those things. A friend asked me advice recently. She was like, I really want to get signed by this activewear company. And I was like, great, start posting them, start being involved with them, be so ingrained with them and their messaging and aligned with them that everyone thinks that you work with them already. That when they finally see you, they're like, this makes perfect sense, especially because now, like if it's an unorganic match, it won't work and people won't try to force it. So the more that you can just, embody yourself as a thing you wanted to be, like they say, like fake it till you make it. Like you have to believe that you are that person before you're there. I would always get imposter syndrome when I started training because again, like I was 22 years old and meeting 40-year-old executives where my peers would have to, reach out to everyone for months to even get their phone number. And I would be like, oh, you want me to text them for you? Like I have it. But where was I going?
No, I love it. Keep going.
Just saying that being able to talk to everyone, but also like really know who you are and what you want to do is will be the way.
Meghan, I love that. And I mean, honestly, this conversation can go on for a long time, and I'm so grateful for you because, especially how you kind of rounded out that last answer. One thing was abundantly clear to me is that authenticity matters. And authenticity clearly has distinguished you amongst the sea of other people in your industry. And it's not to, say anything negative about anyone else, but as we've seen over and over again, authenticity will win 100% of the time. And that's one thing that's been, clear with you since I met you pre-COVID and since working out with you pre-COVID. I've worked out with other people from those very same workouts. But there's a reason why I reached out to you. It's because your messaging was always authentic. It was always real. It was always relatable. It always seemed to meet people where they are, as we've spoken about, previously on this episode. And even if I wasn't necessarily your direct target audience at one point, I was always like, I want to know what she's doing because she's doing something right. And, on today's episode, I feel like you really let us in, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. So I just want to say thanks for coming on today.
Thank you so much. And even for caring about me and wanting to learn more about my story. Really appreciate it.
You got it. Have a good one. Thank you for listening today. If you enjoyed this episode of the Mile 40 podcast, go ahead, subscribe, leave a review, and share the word. Thank you for being a part of the Mile 40 family. And let's unite in showing the world that comebacks are always greater than setbacks.